Hello, my name's Gavin, and this is Genre Books, and we're 2 weeks away from Rocket Summer, the science fiction, classic science fiction reading event devised by Michael K. Vaughan. There are 4 prompts over the 4 weeks of July. The first week, any science fiction up to the year 1939. Week 2, 1940 to 49. Week 3, what I'll be covering this week, 1950 to 59, and the final week, 1960 to 69. I've already covered the first 2 prompts in 2 previous videos, but now to come to the 1950s, when science fiction is exploding in popularity and has gone atomic. There is a lot to pick from. There's a fair amount to pick from just in terms of the pulps. A possibility is Rocket Stories. This from September 1953. As well as the opportunity to join the Rosicrucians, there's also the opportunity to read these authors: Irving E. Cox, Stanley Mullen, Felix Boyd, James E. Gunn, Chester Cohen, Alga Rome, Kirby Brooks, and Noel Loomis. Looking a bit like a novel, but just pulp in disguise, is Wonders of the Spaceways. This is from a British publisher, the John Spencer Company, and short stories here by names I should imagine are unfamiliar to most: Stephen James, Peter J. Ridley, D.R. Mensett, T.W. Wade, Frank C. Neller, and John Robertson. I would wager that half of the names are house names or pseudonyms, but apart from some science fiction stories, there are some great adverts as well in this one. Send off for Joan the Wad, a Cornish piskie. Kill your tobacco craving with the Victor Institute. Enhance or reduce your bust, make yourself taller with glands, and reshape your nose with these special spectacles. But I think the pulp I might pick is the first issue of Infinity Science Fiction. And before I even look at the writers, look at the offer on the back cover. Any 3 of these books for $1. But this pulp has some names which may be more familiar to science fiction readers: William Tenn, Winston Marks, Robert Bloch, James Blish, Arthur C. Clarke. Speaking of Arthur C. Clarke, he is a nailed-on choice for this week. I have been wanting to read this book for years, and that's A Childhood's End. I've been reading Arthur C. Clarke for some time now, and that has only increased in the last couple of years. But Childhood's End is one that for some reason I've never been able to get a hold of. I could have bought a new copy, I suppose, but I wanted to, get an older one, and this pan science fiction just fitted the bill. I suppose I should also read this, as it's unaccountably one I've not read before, and that is The Silver Locusts by Ray Bradbury, better known in America as the Martian Chronicles, and the first story in this anthology is Rocket Summer. So all signs are pointing towards the fact I should read this one. But if I spend time on that, will it be at the expense of Isaac Asimov with Pebble in the Sky? Another possibility is one of my favourite writing duos in science fiction, which is Frederik Pohl and C.M. Kornbluth. 2 of the favourite 50s, early 60s science fiction books I've read in the last few years have been the Space Merchants and Gladiator at Law, and here is Wolfbane. The Earth itself is a prisoner in the cold dungeons of deepest space. The human race barely survives beneath a pale artificial sun that is now its only source of heat and light. One man still fights the awful domination of the pyramids, a fugitive escaped from execution, a dead man with a living superbrain, a wolf in sheep's clothing. Doesn't tell me a huge amount, but tells me enough that I really want to read it. Or will I have time for some Eric Frank Russell? I've got a couple to pick from here, and that is Free to Conquer and Wasp. If during 1940s week I don't get round to reading Slan by A.E. van Vogt, then I have another opportunity with the Voyage of the Space Beagle. I could go down the route of pure apocalypse fear with Split Worlds by Tyrone C. Barr. They were the only survivors of a global holocaust. I may have time to fit in the short stories from Frederic Brown, Space on My Hands, and I'm tempted to do so. His book, What Mad Universe, was one of the favourites I've read in the last couple of years. Barely clocking in at just over 100 pages is Tomorrow and Tomorrow by Lewis Padgett, yet another pseudonym for C.L. Moore and Henry Kuttner. And if I don't get the chance to read Fury or No Boundaries from the previous week, this is a strong contender. 2 shillings and sixpence from Panther Books, printed in 1960, but from a 1950s novel. This is The Door to Summer by Robert A. Heinlein. He'd just discovered that his partner had swindled him, and to top it off, the inventions over which he'd slaved for years were out of his hands, so why not duck out and try a dose of suspended animation? But he awoke to a startling discovery, one which made him wonder if he had acted wisely. The book is from 1973 from Dell Publications. The story is from 1953 from James Blish. It's the Quincunx of Time. Who is J. Shelby Stevens? How does he get his information? These were the questions that the head of Earth Security had to answer before he could use the new communicator. Without the DRAC transmitter, man's expansion into the galaxy must stop, and unless Robin Weinbaum could find J. Shelby Stevens, the universe was closed. All of those books have the distinct advantage of being short. I don't think any of them clock in at much more than 200 pages. If I want something a little chunkier, if I find myself unaccountably at leisure during this week, I have further opportunities, and again books that I have unaccountably not read before. The Body Snatchers by Jack Finney, The Demolished Man by Alfred Bester, and Non-Stop by Brian Aldiss. Basically, for the 1950s, I'm spoilt for choice, and I could easily have picked a pile of books twice this size. It's going to be very difficult trying to cut this down further, but I'm certainly not reading that in a week, so I will have to. I'll be back next week with my choices from the 1960s, and at that point we'll only be a week away from Rocket Summer. But until then, bye.